Morning. My name is Rod Hughes. I'm Managing Director of a company called Energy Base. I also am one of the directors and founders of Sustrans Energy, which is one of the new community energy companies. So the relevance of being here today. I've got a fairly extensive background in energy and in renewables and running businesses. And this is our day job, so to speak. And we have a very simple business, and I just wanted really to talk to you about energy brokerage. In our other lives, in our other worlds, we're very much involved in quite high-level projects in renewables, in energy efficiencies. The problem with a lot of these projects is they're very time-consuming, they're very capital-intensive. One of the problems that I have, and I think a lot of people have also, is complexity. And in business and in running commercial operations, it's very complex because anything you do has a bearing on something else. We all want to be more energy efficient, we all want to save money, we want leaner and better businesses, but it's hard to know what to do. So our energy brokerage and energy brokerages in general are very, very simple and very, very easy. And I suppose it's an easy win. It's straight off the bottom line. Okay, driving here today, as some of you did, I'm sure you heard that the Big Six have finally been, are going to be up in front of the competition authorities. Is that coincident with the fact that SSE came up with a price freeze? Maybe, you never know. You can't be cynical about these things, can you? The Big Six have had, and energy companies in general have had a fairly open market, and I personally have my doubts as to whether we're going to, as a country, be able to take too much control of that, because I think they're very powerful. That's just a personal opinion, but nevertheless, it's a step in the right direction. So my friend Stephen showed you the rise in gas rates and electricity rates and utility rates per se since 2009. It is obviously a general thing. My interest also is in hydrocarbons and reduction of hydrocarbons. By definition, most of our energy does come from hydrocarbons, and those hydrocarbons are reducing, so the prices are going up. So that's the background that we find ourselves with, rising energy costs, and a market where we're constantly having to look at the situation with hydrocarbons and how we deal with that. So some very simple statements which we find in our business. Any business, in general terms, unless they're working with an energy management company, with an energy brokerage, generally is paying too much money for their utilities. It tends to be the last thing that's looked at. It tends to be looked at by facility managers. The energy companies are very powerful. They've been making a lot of money for a lot of time. They have very sophisticated organizations. Whilst I wouldn't say that they collude, certainly the Big Six have policies whereby there are different levels of pricing and different levels of rates that you get. It's a little bit like going into the market and buying your insurance. If you went to 4 insurance companies and they were all charging you £500 and one of them charged you £480, you'd think you're doing very well, but you might not know that actually there are other companies that could perhaps offer you, say, £300. And this is the situation that we find ourselves with energy. In general terms, most people are paying between 15 and 25% too much, and I can demonstrate that. This is the work we did with a company in Eastbourne, and this just gives you some idea of savings. This is a very large organisation. It's a big engineering company. They make electronics for the security industry. They have probably about 50 to 80 employees, including obviously people to look after facilities and management. we're just a very small outfit, but what we are is very much focused on, all we're interested in is seeing what we can do about getting rates improved for our clients. We went into this large company. They have about six operations, six plants across Brighton and Eastbourne. And we found, even though they were a large company, they were doing very, very badly. We reduced the costs against their renewal, so the prices that they had been offered, by 27%. The saving over the price that they were already paying was about 40%. And as I say, this is a very large organisation. So what do? All we do basically is engage with companies, and we have a range of supply companies, generally outside the big six. We still use the big six, we still use the British Gases of this world. They're sometimes the most competitive, but we work with a whole load of other people, a whole load of other Total, Haven companies like this. We take over looking for rate, and we do that by simple engagement with a letter of authority, and we then basically try and get the best rates that we possibly can using the relationships that we have in the market. And we've had some fairly big successes. Give you for instance, we have a fairly large Indian restaurant that we go to quite often, and we'd been banging on to them about getting their rates reduced, but I don't want to kind of come across as being pushy, so therefore it was quite laid back. About a year later, a friend rang me back and said, "Oh, you're still involved in this? Is there something you can do for us?" Because he'd got a huge bill in. And we said, "Yeah, no, we're more than happy to come and look at your rates for you, see what we can do." So we went and did that. And he was paying £80,000 a year for quite a large restaurant for his energy. And we got him a 49% saving. So each and every year he'd been paying £40,000 too much money just for a very simple engagement. So it gives you for instance. Similarly here, a number of companies that we've worked with. We work with from large corporations down to corner shops, quite frankly. It really doesn't matter. Sometimes we find that we'll work with a company and they've got amazing rates. There's nothing we can do about it. What we're able to do there is actually reassure the client that they've done very well, and that's the best they can get. But as I say, quite often we find that there's improvements that we can make. So different businesses there: hotels, restaurants, factories, cafes. Savings there, as you can see, 30, 40, almost 50%. In general terms, we try and underplay it. We normally work on the basis that we should improve by something like about 12% if all is well. But our expectation would be higher than that, certainly 20 to 30%. Okay, we thought this might be useful for you. This is do's and don'ts when you're moving premises. And please forgive me if I'm teaching you to suck eggs, but these are real situations that we've discovered that people have been involved in. It's a stupid thing, but a lot of companies, a lot of people don't take meter readings when they leave a property, and this, quite frankly, just leaves you open to situations afterwards. Energy companies generally don't take evidence for themselves. We haven't got smart metering involved yet. It may come, but it's going to take a long time. So if you take evidence of your own meter readings, you can't have any arguments later. We've had situations where people have left a premises and not taken those bills, and then argue the toss, and then end up paying a large bill at the end of the day because they can't actually physically prove what energy that they have used. Another one, never hope that you can get away without paying a bill. We had quite a large company that had a site with a meter which just didn't come up. They didn't get any bills for this site. They ran quite a large operation from that site. They did okay. We managed to change their meter over, and we managed to get it on a proper commercial standing without any kind of penalty. But similarly, we had a company, small restaurant really, nothing huge, who had moved in, and they were most focused on obviously getting their business up and running and getting the thing being successful. And they didn't get any bills, and so they thought, well, that's great, we'll just not worry about it. Eventually, the bill did come in, and when they tried to change to a cheaper supplier, they found that they couldn't, because they were locked in and they wouldn't be released from the previous supplier. It took them a year, 3 years. 3 years. It took them 3 years to gradually catch up on the payments and pay the situation off to the point where they could move supplier. During that time, they were being penalised effectively, both for the rate that they were paying, which was far too heavy, and also because they were struggling to pay the bill all the time, they got late payment charges. So they were being crippled, quite frankly. And we eventually managed to, or they, to be fair, managed to get to the point where they budgeted and managed to pay the bill off. At that point, we were able to change them to a supplier, and we reduced it down by 35%, something like that, 35%, something of that order. So don't ignore bills. Always inform your supplier that you've moved. I've got a personal one here, actually. I'm recently buying a new property, and found that I had a problem on my credit rating, and went back and looked at that, and I found that a premises that I'd moved from in 2010, I'd received bills and in fact litigation for non-payment of that bill for the bill for 2011, and bearing in mind I've moved in 2010. Spoke to the company, sorted the thing out, but they said that it was legitimate because I hadn't informed them that I'd left. Well, I had, but I'd just written them a letter. So basically, unless it's traceable, it can be deemed that you haven't informed them, so therefore they can take this litigation out there. So it's really worth watching. Big one. Every time you move business, the change of tenancy or the contract goes onto a database and is sold. It's sold to all the major companies, which is, if any of you have moved premises, first thing you do is you get in, nobody that you want calls you, and you're getting calls every 10 seconds from energy suppliers. My advice to you, please do not engage with them. We had some friends of ours who started up a new pub, took over new tenancy. They were told that the people that they were talking to were responsible for their energy, and they basically got talked into a contract on the phone. It's a company called BES. I don't mind standing up here and saying it. Look them up on the web. They are dreadful. They've brought companies to their knees. They've made them bankrupt because they take a telephone contract. That contract is valid in law, and they basically then enforce that. And if you don't pay them, then they charge you with late payments charges and everything else. And they have bankrupted companies. So don't do that. Get a good, valid broker involved. Finally, stay in control. When you change over, when you move into a new premises, you do have time to get things organised. Don't be pushed into taking the first great deal that we've had, that you get offered. We had a good customer of ours. We spoke to him about Brokerage. He rang to talk to his supplier. They managed to convince him on the phone that if he didn't actually go with them on the rate that they were offering, it would be gone by the end of the day. And so he signed up on the phone because he thought it was the right thing to do. Luckily, he was within his cooling off period, so we were able to get him out. And that's about it, really. But just to say that, if you don't pay your bills, you don't pay your energy bills, all sorts of strange things can happen. Get a good broker involved, and we'll be more than happy to try and help you work on things. Hope that's useful. Thank you.